Dr. Alex Mercer strode down the familiar hallway, footsteps echoing in the sterilized passageway. White walls and harsh fluorescent lights filled their vision, tomorrow's technology masking the controversial nature lurking within these walls. Mercer clenched their jaw reflexively. This part, seeing donors awaiting memory extraction, never got easier. They reached the reception room, empty except for the attendant. Mercer pulled up the first donor's intake form with a flick of their wrist, summoning a transparent screen that hovered in front of narrowed eyes. Sarah Green, Mercer murmured, selling a memory of her 5-year-old son taking his first steps to a wealthy, bereaved mother. They sighed. So it would begin for another donor, relinquishing more precious memories until only impersonal fragments remained, trading pieces of souls to prolong failing minds in the rich and powerful. How much is she getting? 500 credits. Foreign sensory memory fetches a premium. The attendant responded automatically. Mercer glared at the figure, feeling rising bile, the wealthy cannibalizing the less fortunate again, as was the inevitable way of things. The laws that had once protected the vulnerable, eroding with each passing year. Mercer looked up as the door slid open. Sarah stood there, wide eyes betraying fear, even as she forced a smile. She was only 23 but looked far older under the harsh lights. "Dr. Mercer, thanks for seeing me today." "Of course, Ms. Green," Mercer said gently. "Please, come sit and we'll prepare you for the procedure." Mercer patted the reclined chair. As Sarah settled in, Mercer began entering commands into the console, initializing the memory extraction sequence. Sarah fidgeted nervously with a stray thread on her sleeve. "So how does this work? Will it hurt?" Her voice trembled slightly, despite her efforts to stay calm. Mercer gave her a reassuring smile. "Not at all. The process is quite safe thanks to the latest neural mapping technology. I'll attach a few sensors to your temples and forehead to monitor brain activity. You'll feel a slight tingling sensation at first. Then, as you access the memory, an IV infusion will help amplify recall to facilitate the extraction. You may feel some initial disorientation, almost like déjà vu, but it quickly passes. We'll record a 3D render of the memory engram through the sensors. After that, the system uncompresses and formats it into a tradable data coin." Sarah nodded, exhaling slowly. "And I won't remember him taking those steps anymore?" Mercer paused, sympathy welling up. "No, you won't. But the payment will set you up nicely to care for your son now. You're making a noble sacrifice for his future." The lies felt acidic on Mercer's tongue. How could the theft of precious memories be noble? But there was nothing to do but play their part. The laws wouldn't change any time soon, no matter their personal feelings. As Mercer began applying the senses, they wondered again why Sarah had chosen this memory as collateral. Had the economic pressure eroded her judgment that much? Once a mother sold enough memories, would her son remain precious to her anymore? The thought haunted Mercer as they initiated the extraction sequence. The memory extraction complete, Mercer helped a dazed Sarah to her feet. As technicians packaged the freshly rendered data coin for transfer, Mercer's gaze lingered on Sarah's confused expression. There would be some temporary disorientation, they had warned her, but it still bothered Mercer to witness the post-procedura fog settling in. "Let's get you to the recovery room for some water and a protein pack," Mercer said, guiding Sarah's faltering steps. "You may feel off balance for the next few hours. The technicians will transfer your payment shortly as well. 500 credits. Not bad for 5 minutes of work." Sarah nodded vaguely, one hand coming up to rub her temple. "I feel so strange, like I'm missing something but can't remember what." "Will this feeling last?" Mercer sighed. "Unfortunately, yes, though it fades. Extraction wounds the neural architecture where memories solidify. The impressions remain, embedded in your subcortex, but the pathways degrade with time." They settled Sarah into a chair and handed her a glass of water. Sarah sipped it slowly, hands unsteady. "And I'll never get that memory back?" she asked in a small voice. "No," Mercer admitted. The extraction process destroys the neural lattice work that supports recall. But you'll adapt, as most donors do. The credits will give you and your son a stable life. As if on cue, Sarah's payment notification blinked onto the synth glass pane on her wrist. 500 credits successfully transferred to her account. Sarah stared at it numbly. "That's over 2 years' wages on my assembly line job," she murmured. "I just wish I could remember my boy's first steps. It hurts, not being able to picture it anymore." Mercer felt that familiar anger rising, the unfairness of it all. Sarah shouldn't have to give up priceless memories just to escape poverty. The practice preyed on the desperation of the lower classes to enrich those already overflowing with wealth and privilege. "Dr. Mercer?" An assistant appeared at the doorway. "Your 11 a.m. extraction is prepped and ready in room 6. Mercer stood slowly, laying a comforting hand on Sarah's shoulder. "Rest here a bit longer until the disorientation passes. And don't hesitate to ping me if you have any further side effects later on. Take care, Ms. Green." Striding down the corridor, Mercer brooded over Sarah's fate. Like countless donors before her, she would carve away pieces of herself, each extraction making her a little less until only a hollow shell remained. And it would never stop as long as the insatiable rich sought eternal youth through stolen memories. Dr. Elena Voss strode through the atrium of the Neuro Research Institute, white lab coat billowing behind her. She radiated competence and ambition with every clipped step. Employees jumped out of her way, intimidated by her reputation. She was slated to become the next director after all, pending the results of her latest research. Reaching the secure lab wing, Elena paused at the retinal scanner, tapping a manicured nail impatiently as the automated system verified her access privileges. The heavy doors slid open and she continued onward, heels echoing sharply in the empty corridor. Her presentation to the board was only hours away. Years of ruthless dedication had led to this precipice, and she would not fail now. The lab door yielded to her encrypted passcode. Stepping inside, Elena allowed herself a tight smile. The memory manipulation system took up most of the space. A complex machine centering on a surgical chair lined with cerebral sensors and intravenous tubes. Once a memory was extracted, the system could alter nuanced details of the engram before recombining it. A perfected version could rewrite the past in a subject's mind. Her life's work, now tantalizingly close to fruition. Her head neurotechnician looked up from the central console. "Dr. Voss, we weren't expecting you yet. Is the demonstration still scheduled for 4 p.m.? "Yes, everything remains on schedule. I'm simply here to review the engrams one final time before we commence." Her heels clicked across the floor as she peered at the monitor displaying the extracted memories. Complex lattice works of neural nodes and connecting synapses glowed gently, casting aquamarine hues on Elena's face. Datacoin 177719 intrigued her the most, a childhood memory from one of the Institute's stranger donors. She had downloaded it herself from the commodity exchange networks, drawn by the rarity. Few adult minds retained such early autobiographical impressions anymore without cognitive decay erasing the fragile details. "A unique find indeed," she murmured. Already her mind whirled at the presentation possibilities using a foreign, primal memory like this. The board would be getting far more than expected with this demonstration. Success was so close she could taste it. A notification tone from her wrist console disrupted her thoughts. Frowning in annoyance, she glanced down. Her expression changed to surprise as she noted the ID signature. What reason could Dr. Mercer have for contacting her directly mere hours before her presentation? Their rivalry was certainly no secret among the Institute's staff. Her eyes narrowed as she opened the message. Whatever the intent, she refused to let Mercer distract her now after coming so far. Elena's eyes scanned the message from her rival twice before the meaning fully registered. Her sharp intake of breath echoed in the quiet lab. Mercer claimed to have uncovered flaws in her memory manipulation methods that could cause catastrophic neural decay. An absurd allegation, no doubt, meant to sabotage her presentation today. How like Alex to make this 11th-hour attempt to undermine her research. Her fingers twitched with the urge to delete the presumptuous message outright. Yet, professional curiosity gave her pause. What proof could Mercer possibly have found to support these outrageous claims? She prided herself on exhaustively validating her work. Each trial had been meticulously documented to identify any abnormalities post-manipulation. Curiosity won out. Rapidly typing a response, she demanded Mercer present this so-called evidence in person within the hour. She would not let vague threats hamper her chance to unveil the revolutionary memory alteration system. The board would see firsthand how magnificently it worked using the extracted childhood memory. Moments later, her console chimed a reply. Mercer agreed to meet in a secured conference room to share their research. Elena's pulse quickened, part nerves and part excitement at the confrontation ahead. Perhaps she would finally understand her rival's motivations in constantly opposing her pioneering work. Their philosophical clash around memory commodification had sparked fiery debates across countless neurotech conferences over the years. Checking the time, Elena saw she still had 2 hours before meeting the board. Plenty of opportunity to poke holes in Alex's accusations before then. Striding from the lab, she beelined for the East Wing conference rooms. A surprise encounter with her rival mere hours before destiny called was an interesting twist indeed. She had best prepare for anything, given Alex's unmatched skills for rhetorical surprises. Upon entering the assigned room, she found Mercer already standing at the viewport, gazing out over the steel and glass nexus of the Institute campus below. How like them to arrive early as if lying in wait, Elena mused. Well, no matter. She would control the tempo of this encounter. Alex, to what do I owe the pleasure of your company so soon before my presentation? She began smoothly. I hope you haven't come merely to observe your failure beforehand. Alex turned, mouth set in a grim line. There will be no presentation today, once the board learns what your tampering could unleash. Elena raised one eyebrow. Oh, spare me the melodramatics. What tangible proof have you conjured to waste my time? In answer, Alex crossed to the table and activated the holodisplay embedded within. Elena's sharp inhale was audible as the imaging scan results appeared. This would require more than verbal sparring to overcome. Elena gripped the back of a chair, knuckles white as she stared at the damning scan results. The imaging profile of a memory engram post-manipulation glowed accusingly before her. The neural architecture was disturbed, dendritic connections fraying as neurons struggled to reintegrate. Neural decay, she whispered. But how? My trials showed flawless recollection with none of this degradation. Alex watched her intently. The decay builds with each memory access attempt, exponentially erasing connections. My projection analysis indicates full neural collapse within a year per engram. Elena's thoughts raced. Had she been so fixated on proving her technology that she missed this progressive decay in her human trial subjects? How many had she condemned to this creeping oblivion masked by initial success? She shook her head sharply. No, you must have fabricated this, Alex. There's no evidence my techniques cause such severe degradation long-term. This is clearly sabotage. Alex sighed. I know we have our ideological differences, Elena, but I would never undermine your work so cruelly had I not discovered this horrible outcome firsthand. They retrieved another scan from the holo server, the imaging timestamp from 6 months prior. This is from Sarah Green, one of your Phase 3 participants. Watch what unfolds over repeat memory access attempts. With dawning horror, Elena watched the progressive dissolution across neural pathways, Sarah's memory of her child slowly unwoven, until only ghosts remained. Sarah had come to Alex seeking help, terrified of the blanks steadily swallowing her past. Elena collapsed into the chair. How could I not have seen this? My method seemed sound. A flaw in my extraction technique, perhaps. She stared into nothingness, the shining future she had envisioned crumbling around her. We all crave second chances to craft preferable pasts, Alex said gently, no hint of satisfaction at Eleanor's downfall in their voice. But some lines should never be crossed. Help me convince the board to cancel today so we can find an ethical path that prevents this. Eleanor blinked hard, pulling herself together. She had strayed too far in her arrogance, but now a chance for redemption lay before her, if she dared to grasp it. Meeting Alex's eyes, she gave one sharp nod. Mercer stood silently, arms folded, as Elena Voss confessed everything to the stunned board. The slow decay plaguing memory survivors of her trials, her willful neglect of the growing signs, the race to unveil her manipulation technology regardless of the human toll. Mercer watched remorse transforming the once ruthlessly ambitious scientist as she revealed the full truth behind her maleficent efforts. The room became uproarious as Elena finished, directors bellowing condemnation. A few in her camp tried objecting but soon quieted as the extent of the disaster became clear to all. Mercer merely watched and waited by the view screen which still illuminated Sarah Green's deterioration scan in stark pixels, her neural architecture fraying inexorably from the callous violation inflicted. Finally, the lead chairman raised a hand, imposing order over the chaos. He addressed Elena coldly. Dr. Voss, given the depravity of your unchecked research, the board has no choice but to terminate your position immediately pending an official investigation. Your technology cannot be ethically or legally sanctioned given its profoundly destructive capacities. We shall have to pursue alternative solutions. At the last, the chairman turned his heavy gaze on Mercer, a silent acknowledgement of their years urging against memory commodification. In this grim moment, with Elena Voss disgraced and her research shattered, Mercer took no pleasure in vindication. They alone knew the devastating road that had led to this, and could read the weight of remorse in Eleanor's shoulders. Still, there could be healing now that the relentless drive had halted its cruel course. Mercer stepped forward. Chairman, if I may, Dr. Voss's technology does appear salvageable if we can pinpoint the degradation trigger during extraction and protect against it in the core sequencing procedure. Her concepts are sound, only her methods over-aggressive. An intensive peer review panel, with Dr. Voss closely advising, may illuminate a cautious path forward that prevents such tragedies. I would happily lend my research to this effort. Elena turned slowly to meet Mercer's eyes, stunned gratitude shining forth for the first time. The chairman considered this proposal, then nodded curtly. Very well. I leave assembling this team in your hands, Dr. Mercer. Based on past opposition, I trust you have the protocols and moral conscience we sorely need guiding such dangerous work. Now, if there is nothing else. As the fateful meeting concluded, Mercer took Elena gently by the arm, steering her shocked form out. The long road back from disgrace would be arduous, but for the first time, Mercer saw someone worth saving behind those once ruthlessly ambitious eyes. We have much planning ahead, Mercer said quietly.